In this video, I'll be showing you how to determine the powers of I to know what numbers go with what power of I. Basically, for example, we'll be talking about what is I to the power of 1, I to the power of 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So we're going to use this tool that I have on the screen. Is the geometric representation of complex numbers. So on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis, not x-axis, on the horizontal axis, this axis are the real numbers, and on the vertical axis are the imaginary numbers. So every number from the real number, really, when it's multiplied by the imaginary unit, is rotated by 90 degrees. So for example, if I take 1, for example, I take 1 and I multiply 1 by I, that is equivalent to, this is 1 times I, is equivalent to rotation by 90 degrees, rotation clockwise by 90 degrees. All right, so if I take 1 and I rotate it by 90 degrees, so 1 times I is just I. So I go like that, I go like that, will get me to 1. So this I rather get me to I from 1. Let me do it properly. Let's do it properly. We'll go from 1, we'll get to I. Now if I take I again and I multiply it by another I, that means I'm going to do another rotation by 90 degrees. So let's do another color. So we go like this. It goes to -1. So I times I is just -1. And then if I go ahead and do one more rotation from -1, so let's do another color over here. I go from -1 and I rotate again by 90 degrees. That will get me to -I. And so I times another I will get me to -I. And then if I take another rotation from -I, I'm going to end up at 1. So it will be I times I again will get me to 1, and then I will end up with that. So basically there is a pattern here. I can continue to rotate by 90 degrees each time, and I'm going to go back to I, go back to -1, -I, 1, I, -1, -I, 1. So now we're ready to fill out some of these powers. So I to the power of 1 is just I to the power of 2 is -1, because I rotate twice, I get to -1. I to the power of 3 is -I, like we just found over here. And I to the power of 4 is back to 1. Okay, let's remove some of this thing over here. And then I to the power of 5 is like, I'm starting over now again. I go from 1, so I light it. I go from 1. So I'm going to go from 1 second. Okay, I go from 1 and I go back to I. So that's back to I. All right, back to I. And I can go on from there to I to the power of 6 will get me from 1 again. All right, get me from I again back to -1. So you can see it's back to -1. I to the power of 7 is going to go on from there back to -I. So -I. I to the power of 8 is going to go to 1. So I to the power of 8 is 1 again. So every 4 rotation gets me back to 1. So just note that this is a pattern that you have, and so we can comfortably say that every power of 4, every multiple of 4 rather, will get me to 1. That's multiple of 4 will get me to 1. All right, So you can actually predict that the next one, I to the next part of multiple of 4 that will get me to 1 will be I to the 12th, right? Because if I go around again, let me use another color over here, and I go around again, that will get me to I to the 12th. And so the next power will be I to the power of 16 will get me to another 1, and so on and so forth. So every power of 4, every multiple of 4, rather, the same power, will get me to 1. Similarly, we can investigate what happens to other even numbers that are not part of multiple of 4. So we can see that I to the power of -2 will get me to -1. I to the power of 2 will get me to -1. Another color for that, let's see. Yellow. Okay, so I to the power of 2 will get me to -1. I to the power of 6 will get me to -1. Now the next one that will get me to -1, that is not 1, is I'm going to go 6 over here on this side. So this is 6 over here, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I to the power of 10 will get me back to -1. I to the power of 10 will be -1. So if the power is even, but it's not a multiple of 4, see, 10, 6, 2, they are even numbers, but they're not multiples of 4, then I know the answer will be -1. So basically, let's just summarize now. So far, we know that I can be the power of I. If it is even number, I can either have 1 or -1. You get 1 if it is a multiple of 4. Multiple of 4. But you get -1 if it is even, but not a multiple of 4. But not multiple of 4. Multiple of 4. Okay. So basically that's for even numbers. Okay, we can also look for pattern for the odd numbers. So let's use another color over here to just examine the pattern for odd numbers. So the first one is 1. Okay, 1 is I. Okay, and now if you look at it, 5 is also I. And if I do one more, like 12, 13. Okay, let's do 13. I to the 13th. Okay, I to the 13th. I to the 13th is also 1. It's also I. Because I'll get to 12. When I make my circle, I get to I to the 12th, and then I go one more. Will get me to 13. Okay, so 13. Now, if you look at this pattern here, anything that is one more than, so I need to go to another screen. If it's one more than the multiple of 4, so I to the power of 1, I to the power of 5, I to the power of 9, I to the power of 13, I to the power of 17. These powers are one more than the multiple of 4. They always end up with I. So you always get I if it's odd, but you will get I if it's one more than multiple of 4. Multiple of 4. Then you will get negative I if it's one less than multiple of 4. Okay, now we're ready to practice this a little bit. So let's just practice a little bit with this. So now I have, you feel free to pause the video, get the numbers, and then check your answer to be sure you're right with me. Okay, so let's say I have I to the power of 24. So 24 is a multiple of 4. If you count by 4, you get to 24. So that means it's just 1. I to the power of 37, for example. So we have 36 is a multiple of 4, so plus 137. So that would just be I, because it's one more than the multiple of 4. I to the power of 43, for example. Okay, so you know 40 is a multiple of 4. 44 is the next one. But 43 is one less than 44. So that will give me negative I. And then let's do one more. So let's say I have I to the power of 70. 70. So you know that 70, well, 72 is a multiple of 4. But 70 is not. So it's an even number, so it will be negative 1. Now, if you don't like these patterns, you can actually use this diagram to help you figure out any that you want. So I want to use the diagram for I to the 24, for example. So I know that this is 1, this is I, this is negative 1, and this is negative I. So I go around 1 time, that's 4, 2 times, that's 8, 3 times, that's 12, 4 times, that's 16, 20, 24. So I'm back to 1. So it's 1. That's why. 37, I can keep on going, but I know every cycle I will go around is, is power of 4, is multiple of 4. But 36 will hand me over here. I to the 36 will be here. And so 37 will be one more. So I to this 37 is I. 43. Well, I go around. 40 will get me back to 1 over here. 40 will get me here. So 43 will be 41. Let's use another color for that. It will be 41, 42, 43. See, I get negative I. And then 70, well, I can do 70. So I can do 72. 72 on that color for that. 72 will get me to 1 over here. 72, okay? But I need to go 70. So I can go back. 71, 70. That will get me back to negative 1, which is what we have on the screen. So either way, you can use pattern. You can use the pattern to get the answer, or you can use the cyclical pattern, the cyclical methods, using the cycle method to get it. Either way, you can arrive at the value of I for any problem you are given. So I hope this helps you, and this is the end of the video.